Alright guys, we're going to do the Tamiya red now, the clear, and a few pointers is you definitely want some kind of an airbrush booth for your item when you're doing this stage, because this clear stuff actually can start getting cloudy, because if I'm spraying in this direction going here, so if I'm spraying here and I'm getting a nice good clear red coming here, all of a sudden you get this cloud, your overspray is coming in this direction and it starts getting, it's not getting smooth. It's getting like grainy in that area. So when you spray, you want an airbrush booth, or if you're doing it in a garage or you don't have a booth, maybe throw up like a shop vac vacuum cleaner hose in the back, so this way you're getting some kind of an air coming so you can spray in that direction. Also, you also want to use Tamiya thinner on it. Now, a fresh new bottle red is okay, but you want to thin it down with just a couple drops, not a lot. I'm not saying like pour the whole bottle in there and get it watery, because you don't want it watery, because watery clear red will bleed. And you don't want to do straight out of the bottle to a point, because the thickness will give you that cloudiness. So you kind of just want to thin it down with just like maybe 1 or 2 drops. So I have like a half like empty bottle here of red. So what I'll do is I'll pour like half of this red into here, and then I'll take like what I'll do is I'll pour like a couple drops into the cap, and then I'll fill it in there, and then I close the cap up and I shake it. So it just thins it down a little bit to the point where I'm getting a smoother flow. It's not drying, caking up, and then any of the excess stuff will get into the airbrush booth and be pretty good. So what I'll do is we'll show you real quick how I mix it up, and then once we start painting, we'll just do a fast video, and hopefully we'll get a nice good clear red all over her. We let that dry for a couple days, and then we move on to the clear coat Duplicolor. Alright, so I'm just going to show you guys how I mix it all up. It's really not that difficult. The other thing too is you also want to make sure if you have a mess, you want to get any excess stuff off, because you don't want to get it in your airbrush. So just take half the bottle, pretty much. It's about good enough. And then what I do is I take, just fill a couple drops up in here. Not that much, just a little bit. Throw it in there. And then twist that up. Shake it up and good to go. Now the other thing too is I like to use my Iwata Revolution CR airbrush. This is my thicker airbrush, and I don't like to use too thick of an airbrush, because I have a Badger 360, which is very, very thick, and that'll blow through paint real quick. And I noticed that if you do too heavy of a paint, you will get bleeding. If you use a really fine airbrush like this CR Plus from Iwata, it comes out very misty and it dries before it hits your statue, and you need more of a watered down clear red or clear from Tamiya to use this airbrush, and that's for specific projects that I do. But since we're doing a nice thick coating, my CR is perfect. I make sure that it's clean to the point where everything's coming along fluidly. There's no clogginess. If it is clogged, I will clean it out before I do something like this, but we're at a good point. To give you guys an idea, throw in some cleaner. You can kind of see how it comes out. I got it at PSI probably around 20-25, and yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. So we'll get set up and we'll start doing the clear red. guys, so as you saw, I did my first coat on her, and I'm going to do a second coat. Certain areas I want to get a little bit thicker. You can tell in some areas maybe I did a little bit thickness here with paint, but then over here it's a little thin, so I could kind of see more silver than red. I really want to get it nice and thick and a deep red on her. I don't want it too light. So I let this dry for a little bit because you got to kind of let this stuff cure for a little bit before you do a lot of layers, but you can do it all in like one day or one night. But you don't want to just do one whole huge layer and then right away do another layer. Kind of want to let it cure because I find that this clear red stuff, the thicker it is, the longer it takes to cure, and maybe some problems might occur down the line because you can let it dry for a week, and if it's really thick, you can almost push your finger on it and still smoosh it a little because it's like an eggshell. The outside will cure, but the inside's still wet. And the other thing too, I find that this stuff almost kind of makes the chrome silver react a little bit and become soft again. So you really want to take your time when doing this stuff. You don't want to rush it all in one night. You want to, if you have to do a little bit one day, come back and do the next. I find that the red paint though from Tamiya Clear is very easily to work with. Like if you do mess up in an area and you kind of hit it with some silver and you go back over a red, the red seems to be very uniform. You can actually keep going and you really don't see any mess ups. But when you do maybe yellow, blue, green, orange is okay, but if you do those other colors, you'll start to see like the yellow will be darker here but lighter here. The same thing with the blue and the same thing with the green. So red's easier to work with compared to the other clear from Tamiya. But that's why I like the red so much, and of course a lot of characters are already pretty much red anyway, so it's kind of a win-win situation. But the lose situation is if you do scrape something and you do mess up, it's very, very hard to kind of patch it up. But red still is uniform enough where you can patch it and get away with it, whereas the other colors, it's a one-shot deal. You mess up, you screw up the whole piece. So that's pretty much where I'm at with the red. We're going to let it sit for a little bit more. I'll come back and we'll do another solid coat. Alright, so the second coat is done. It's at that deep red of where I want it. So now when you turn her, you're getting hit with lights and shadows, and the blacks are very deep blacks, and you're getting that feel that it is a comic book artwork where it still gets some nice sheen to it, and it works out as you turn her. So we'll kind of give it a little bit of a turn, show you guys kind of what I mean, as you can see. So I like the way it's going. Now, for her hands and her boots, I'm just giving you guys an idea what's going on. I was just testing the hands because I still got more to add to her with her hands and a different base, but I'm just kind of focusing on the red outfit for these videos. So the hands are like a mahogany deep red, so that's going to be like a leathery gloves on her as well as the boots. But I just like to always make sure before I go any further, before I do anything, in case I decided maybe I should make the boots like that metallic red, I think I like the, this kind of a leather red. So when you put it next to it, it's kind of close to it, but it gives you the idea that the boots and the gloves are leather and the outfit's got that latex look outfit. And that's kind of my own little take on this specific custom. So I'm good where I'm at. I'm going to let this paint cure for a couple days. I'm actually going to Jersey Fest this coming weekend. So it's good to let this sit over the weekend. And then next week, hopefully, I got a nice day where it's kind of cool out in the morning, it's not too hot, it's not muggy, it's not raining, and we can get to the clear coat. I like to make sure that this red actually cures for a few days, just to be on the safe side, because you never know if it's wet. Maybe that Duplicolor can actually run that wetness, or it can soften it up, or you never know. I'm always finding different things that work, that don't work, or whatever. So we're going to let this sit for a few days, and we'll come back, we'll clear her up, and then after that we'll show the final video. Hopefully it'll be all done. Alright guys, so it's fairly early in the morning, still cool out. It's not super hot, it's not really muggy this morning either, so it's going to be a good day to kind of clear her up. So I have a fan here that blows dust pretty much out to the outside of the garage, and as you can see the vacuum hose is over there. It's just kind of suck up some of the dust. I know it would be better to have a really good airbrush booth in the garage. Down the line I'll probably make something up, but for right now I just want to get this going. So all you pretty much need is your mask, just you don't want to be breathing any of this stuff in, and then you just need your Duplicolor. So I'm going to do a little bit at a time, probably on the leg area, just to make sure I'm not seeing any cracking, anything's not happening. And as things start going good, I'll start finishing her up and coating her. So I'll probably do like maybe 1 or 2 coats today, we'll see. If you notice in her hand, it's kind of clogged up there. What I did is I put silly putty there because I don't want this clear coat to cake up or fill in the keyhole area. So what I do is I just get some of my old silly putty, I put it in the head area and the 2 hands. So I just kind of want to make sure that's not getting clogged up anyway whatsoever. So let's just start getting her cleared up. Alright, so that's the first coat, and while I was doing it, I was making sure there was no melting going on, or nothing was sagging, or there wasn't any reactions, because if there is, I gotta kind of stop right away, because if this thing starts cracking up all over the place by chance, you never know. That's pretty much, it's a done deal. You gotta sand it down and go from scratch. But looks like it lucked out. Everything went on pretty well. It's very, very shiny right now. I might do another coat. Now it is possible that if you oversprayed a little bit or you didn't let this paint dry enough, you can start getting some sagging, or you can get a point where the red starts bleeding away and you start getting some sheen of the chrome silver popping out more, and it starts looking a little bit gray than red. I've run into that in the past too, but like I said, if I think you let this stuff cure for a couple of days, that's the trick. Just to really let it sit. And yeah, it's looking pretty good. But I still might want to do another coat just to be on the safe side, just to give it a really nice secured coat. But I really want to let this dry. Now, if you really want to test anything to make sure you're at a good position, you know, you could test over here a little bit to see if it's still tacky, or if this area right here, so it's still a little tacky and I want to let it sit, but it's got a nice super shine. Now in the garage lights it's really bright, so I'll turn off the lights real quick. So with the lights off and just getting the light from the garage door, you can kind of see what's going on with it. So if it's in your glass case or something, you'll see, you know, you'll get some brights here and there. So we're gonna let this cure up a little bit, give it some time. Like I said, I don't want to rush this stuff, and I definitely want a nice good clear coat on this piece. So I'm gonna let this cure for a little bit, and then what I'll come back is I'll probably just hit over here again just to make sure, you know, it's not reacting. Because I have run in the past where you can do a nice good clear coat, and then if you try to do it again, you can get a reaction. So I don't know if it's that you have to let it cure for a little bit and then do it, or if you let it cure too long and then you try to do another coat, you can kind of screw it up. But for some odd reason, this clear red always works out very well. So let's just let this cure up a bit, and we'll come back and finish her up. Alright guys, so she's all finished up. I let her sit in the garage after the second coat for about a good 20 minutes to about a half hour, I forgot exactly. We're about around the 11:15 mark in the afternoon, so I don't want to leave her out there any longer because my garage becomes a hot box once the sun gets over, you know, around that 12 o'clock area. It's 12 to 3. So I don't want to leave it out there in an extreme heat, even though it's pretty much curing up and looks good, and then try to bring her into the AC house. Not that I have my AC high, but you don't want to go from extremes when doing this. You kind of want to find that, you know, nice middle ground weather, outside, inside, and make sure everything's working out pretty good. So she's pretty much all done. It's set up, so I just gotta do a few things to finish up the statue. But we'll give you some quick tips at the end. So what I did is I put the gloves standing here next to this because I just want to see the difference now with a really bright shiny latex compared to the leather, and I think that's going to turn out pretty cool. So we're going to have leather gloves, leather boots, and then a latex outfit. So it's going to be a little bit of a difference, and it's kind of my take on it. Now the other thing too is when I'm ready to do the boots and do the bracelets and the neck guard in the leather, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to kind of score this down a little bit. Because it's kind of a car paint here, I just kind of want to get a little bit of a scoring going on with some, you know, 3M sandpaper that I usually use, this stuff here, this foam stuff, and just kind of score it down, and then I can paint it, and it's going to bond pretty well. Not to say that you won't get a good bond on here, but, you know, over time, you don't know what can happen. So I just want to make sure everything's, you know, sticking to where it needs to stick. Now, if you do this process on your item, and say you don't do 2 coats, you only did 1 coat, or you just did a light coat, but you kind of want to dull it down, but you wanted to protect your item, you can dull it down a little bit with a Garage Kit's flat top coat. I've used it to dull down stuff, but on this item here, because I did 2 thick coats and it's really shiny, the dull coat really won't do much other than maybe cloud it up a bit and it'll look dusty, so it won't work on this. But if, say, you hit, like, you know, maybe some of the Duplicolor clear coat on this just to kind of mist it a little bit, and then you hit it with the dull, then you could kind of get more of like a shinier leather, which I might do. I'm not sure yet. I have to kind of do some tests on something. And the last thing too is, in theory, you can wax this item now. Now, I'm not saying you can wax the whole entire item. You can wax what you did with the clear coat car, because, you know, you can make it really shiny and protect it like, you know, a regular car turtle wax or something. But of course you wouldn't want to wax here and then try to paint, because the wax won't let anything bond. But if you're working on an item like, say, maybe it's a Captain America shield, and you did the process of all the clears and everything, and then it's really nice and clear coated and it's solid and everything, then you can pretty much wax the shield and you can get away with it. But you have to put your paint first and then clear coat it and then wax. You can't do, sections at a time and then bond it all. But just throwing that out there to give you guys a better idea of how it looks and everything. So she's pretty much all done with the latex. I'm going to let it cure for a few days. I don't want to touch it at all now. I like to let these things cure because I got to put all spikes in her stomach, around her shoulders and arms, and around all the other places. So when I put those spikes in, I got to use glue, and I got to be very careful with the spikes because if you put too much glue, it can cloud up that area. So I do know that the Instaset won't really mess it up that much. It will just kind of bleed down, but I want to make sure everything's cured before I do anything else. So that's pretty much the way it's all done. Hopefully you guys like the way it worked out. Hopefully it helps you guys out, gives you a better understanding. And I really wanted to get this video out there to kind of update what I did in the past with my other custom so you can see on a bigger scale and better video editing. So I'm going to let it cure up. Once I finish up this statue, we'll get it up on my channel so you can see the final statue. So thanks for watching, and we'll be back with some more videos.